You ever have one of those moments where time splits? Like, everything looks the same. Your house, your spouse, your life, but something invisible has broken, and you just feel it? That was the night it all started for me. It was a Tuesday in early spring, one of those damp suburban evenings where the sky's stuck in gray and the streetlights flicker before they should. Sarah had just returned from a supposed 2-day work trip to Indianapolis. She walked through the front door like it was any other evening, like I hadn't spent the past 2 days missing her more than usual. She wore that navy wool coat I bought her last Christmas. The one with the gold buttons she said made her feel grown up. She had her laptop bag slung over one shoulder and her purse hanging low on the other. Same heels, same tired smile, same peck on the cheek as she breezed past me. "Flight was late," she said casually, tossing her keys in the bowl by the door. "God, I hate Midway." She smelled like perfume, stronger than usual, and not hers. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe she spritzed something at the airport? Maybe it was on the plane. Maybe dinner, I asked. "I picked up that Thai place you like." "Oh," she said, glancing at her phone. "Actually, I grabbed a bite at the airport. Not that hungry, just gonna shower." She went upstairs, her coat still on, her heels clacking across the hardwood like punctuation marks I didn't understand yet. I stood there for a second, watching the stairs, confused. We usually ate together after she traveled. She used to come home starving. We'd split takeout on the couch, watch something dumb, fall asleep halfway through. This time was different. Her purse was still near the entryway. I noticed it was unzipped. Not wide open, just enough for something to be sticking out. And listen, I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear. I wasn't digging for dirt. I just saw the edge of a piece of paper sticking out from her handbag. It was crumpled, like it had been shoved in carelessly. I leaned down, pulled it out. It was a receipt from a hotel. Not in Indianapolis. Downtown Chicago. The name caught my eye first, the Hadley. A boutique place, upscale, just off Michigan Avenue. I'd passed it 100 times, always assumed it was one of those romantic getaway spots. Date: Sunday night. 2 glasses of wine. A shared dessert. 1 king suite. And here's the kicker. Sunday night was when she was supposed to be flying to Indianapolis for client onboarding. She had told me they were putting her up at some conference center hotel out near the airport. No mention of downtown. No mention of the Hadley. I just stood there, holding it, my fingers starting to shake. At first, I tried to rationalize. Maybe the client changed cities. Maybe someone canceled. Maybe the company booked the wrong location. Maybe she had dinner with a coworker. Maybe it was nothing. But then something else hit me. Something I'd ignored at first. Her coat. It didn't smell like her. It smelled like someone else. There was a faint trace of cologne clinging to the fabric. Something musky and high-end. Definitely not mine. I don't even wear cologne. Never liked the stuff. But this wasn't the department store body spray you'd find in a rental car or a hotel lobby. It was personal. Int asterisk mate. I called up the stairs. "Hey, Sarah." "Yeah," she answered from the bathroom. The shower had just started running. "Did your trip change? You said you were flying to Indy, but this receipt's from the Hadley." There was a pause, just long enough for me to notice it. Then the water shut off. A few seconds later, she came down the stairs, a towel wrapped around her head, robe tied tight. Her expression was unreadable. "What receipt?" she asked, her voice tight. "This one," I said, holding it up. "It was in your purse." She stepped forward and took it from me, too quickly. Scanned it for a second before folding it and stuffing it in her robe pocket. Her next words hit me like a slap. "Why were you going through my stuff?" "What?" I said, stunned. "It was sticking out. She crossed her arms. "Jesus, Andrew, do you not trust me at all?" "That's not what this is," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "You told me you were in Indianapolis. This says Chicago. And it wasn't for 1 glass of wine, it was 2. A dessert. A king suite. So now I need to explain every single work expense to you?" She snapped. "Are you serious?" This is insane. I blinked. I'm not accusing you of anything. Something doesn't add up. She shook her head and turned away, already walking back up the stairs. You know what? I can't deal with this right now. If you're gonna act like some paranoid control freak every time I travel, maybe you should look at yourself instead of digging through my purse like some insecure teenager. And just like that, she disappeared upstairs. No apology. No explanation. She flipped it. Made me the problem. I stood there for a long time, unsure of what to do next. Part of me wanted to follow her, ask more questions, demand answers. Another part of me, something colder, quieter, just walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of water, my hands still trembling. I sat down at the dining table, staring at nothing. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a bad day or a weird business trip. This wasn't the usual stress of a marriage going through a rough patch. This was a shift. A crack I hadn't noticed forming until now. A moment where the version of Sarah I thought I knew no longer matched the woman upstairs. And I knew, deep in my bones, that this wasn't going to go away on its own. After that night, everything I thought I knew about my marriage started to feel like it had holes in it. I couldn't look at Sarah the same way anymore, not without wondering. Not without the weight of that receipt, that cologne, that deflection. She never brought it up again. Not once. It vanished from her mouth like it never happened. That bothered me even more than the receipt itself. It didn't matter how much I wanted to believe her, or that I kept telling myself it was just one confusing incident. Deep down, I'd already started rewriting the last few months in my head, replaying them like scenes from a movie where the ending no longer matched the beginning. Like how she suddenly started taking her phone everywhere. Not just to the bathroom or the car, everywhere. She used to leave it on the nightstand overnight. Now it slept under her pillow. I noticed the screen never lit up anymore unless she was holding it. Notifications were turned off. Messages deleted. And when it did ring, it was always a quick glance, a quiet just work, and a reply typed too fast for someone not invested. Then there were the passwords. At some point, weeks before the hotel receipt, I think, she changed the code on her phone. No explanation. Just one day, I tried to play a Spotify playlist on our shared account, and it prompted for re-authentication. I asked for her code. She gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes and said, "I'll just do it." That was it. No more access. I told myself it was nothing. People need privacy. Boundaries. I believed that until I didn't. Her work schedule, once reliable, started unraveling too. Client dinners that ran long. Drinks after meetings. Quick overnight trips for team strategy in cities where her company had no listed operations. When I asked what those meetings were about, she gave me vague phrases like onboarding potential or expansion logistics. One night, I checked the company's travel calendar. I had no reason to other than instinct. There was no scheduled trip to Nashville that week. But her credit card showed 2 charges there, one at a high-end steakhouse, and one for a single night stay at the Artmore Hotel. I didn't bring it up. Not right away. I didn't know how. That's the part that gets me. You think if something like this happens, you'll explode, scream, demand answers, throw plates at the wall. But I didn't. I sat with it. Let it eat at me. Let it grow roots in my chest. The thing about suspicion is that it never comes alone. It arrives like a seed, but it doesn't stay that small. It feeds off silence. Off the way she started doing her makeup even for casual coffee runs. Off how she once came home smelling like sandalwood. Again, not mine. Off how she smiled at her phone in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. There was one moment I'll never forget. She came home late a Wednesday, said she had drinks with her manager. Her lipstick was still perfect, but the rest of her looked like she'd been through a wind tunnel. Her coat smelled like something masculine again, and her cheeks were flushed in a way that didn't scream one drink. I tried to act normal. "How was the bar?" I asked. "Loud," she said, tossing her purse on the floor like she was throwing the night away. "Tiring. I need a shower." I watched her climb the stairs, phone still in hand, thumbs moving fast. That was when I started logging things. I didn't even realize I was doing it at first. But I started taking mental notes, timestamps, receipts, calendar invites. Not obsessively, just carefully, because something was off. And I was the only one who seemed to notice. Her friends didn't say anything. Her co-workers certainly wouldn't. And she treated my concerns like character flaws. Like I was insecure, paranoid, ungrateful for her hard work. One night, while she was in the shower, I saw a notification flash on her lock screen before it disappeared. It was just a name, Client D. No message, no context. Just a name that didn't fit into anything I'd heard before. I opened my laptop and pulled up our credit card statement. Just curiosity, I told myself. Nothing more. There it was again. The same day she'd said she was at a networking event. There were 2 restaurant charges. One for a seafood place downtown, the other for drinks at a rooftop bar. Both for 2 people. Both under her corporate card. At first, I told myself she was entertaining clients. That's what she did, right? But the more I looked, the more patterns started forming. A steakhouse in St. Louis when her company had no business in Missouri. An overnight hotel stay in Denver, billed as strategic alignment, when the team calendar said she was working from home. A charge for perfume at a boutique store I knew she never shopped at. Not her brand, not her style. It all started to swirl together like paint running in water. Blurry, but unmistakable. One evening, I asked if she could send me the itinerary for her next work trip. Just said I wanted to plan something while she was gone. Maybe a weekend out of town for myself. She hesitated. I don't have it yet. It's next Tuesday, I said. Don't they usually send it by now? She shrugged. Plans changed. I think we're doing a hybrid. Maybe remote. Where are you going? I asked. She looked up from her phone. Why are you asking me so many questions lately? And there it was again, that same wall she'd built after the hotel receipt. The moment when concern turned into confrontation, no matter how gently I tried to wrap it. I just like to know, I said. That's all. She didn't answer, just stood up, walked into the kitchen, and poured herself a glass of wine. I didn't follow her. I didn't ask again. But later that night, while she was asleep, I opened our shared photo drive. We hadn't uploaded anything new in months, but I remembered that her phone used to sync automatically. Maybe something had slipped through. There was a single photo from 2 weeks ago, blurry, taken in low light. It was just a wine glass, 2 actually, on a candlelit table. Her hand in the foreground holding a dessert spoon. She'd captioned it, treating myself. Only there were 2 glasses, and her other hand wasn't in the frame. I stared at that photo for a long time, longer than I should have. I wasn't angry, not yet. I just felt tired. It's strange how betrayal doesn't feel like fire at first. Feels like weight, like something pressing on your chest. Slowly, silently, every hour of every day. I wish I could say I confronted her. I wish I had stormed into the bedroom, demanded answers, laid everything bare. But I didn't. I closed the laptop, brushed my teeth, and climbed into bed beside her like everything was fine. She turned over in her sleep, muttering something incoherent, and draped her arm over my chest. I stared at the ceiling, her wedding band cold against my skin. The doubts weren't just in my head anymore. They were everywhere. There's a line between suspicion and confirmation, between asking yourself if something's wrong and knowing it is. Once you cross it, you don't come back. For weeks, I'd been standing on that line, wobbling like a man afraid to look down. Every missed call, every late-night shower, every receipt that didn't quite make sense. I kept stacking them up, but part of me still wanted to believe there was some innocent explanation just around the corner. Then one night, that illusion shattered. It started with a simple moment. I was in the kitchen, reheating leftover curry in the microwave, when I glanced toward the patio. The glass doors reflected a sliver of the living room behind me, just enough to see her on the couch, phone in hand. She was smiling, typing fast. That soft, warm expression I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I paused. Not because of the smile itself, but because of the way she looked up afterward. Not toward me, but toward the hallway, checking if she was alone. She thought I wasn't watching. And thanks to the reflection, I saw what I wasn't supposed to. The screen lit up just enough to catch a name. Not a real one, an alias. Client D. The same name I'd seen flash on her phone before. I left the curry in the microwave and walked out silently, staying just out of sight in the hallway. My heart was pounding. Not out of anger, but something else. Cold, quiet certainty. Her voice was soft but clear. Yeah, I can do Boston. You still have the booth at Haywood? A pause. Then a giggle. That kind of low laugh she used to reserve for nights on the porch with wine and summer music. No, I told him it's an off-site strategy session, she said. Another pause. He won't ask questions. He never does. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. In that moment, I saw everything for what it was. The dinners, the wine, the perfume, the overnight stays in cities that had nothing to do with her job. They weren't accidents. They weren't miscommunications. They were a pattern, a routine, a second life unfolding just behind the curtain of our marriage. I backed away slowly, making sure the floorboards didn't creak. When I returned to the kitchen, the microwave had long since beeped. The curry was cold. I didn't even notice. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and opened the shared folder where I'd been quietly storing every piece of the puzzle. Receipts, travel logs, expense reports, photos from her public Instagram that didn't match the places she claimed to be. GPS screenshot *TS from the shared. Find my app she forgot I still had access to. I cross-referenced everything again, this time with a level of detachment that surprised even me. Like a stranger auditing a stranger's life. There it was, clear as glass. The dates aligned. The restaurant charges weren't random. The wine bars, boutique hotels, Ubers to obscure corners of the city. Each one traced back to a night she claimed to be working late. I pulled her calendar from our shared cloud. Found 3 entries labeled client engagement. 1 in New York, 1 in Boston, 1 in Denver. I checked the timestamps, the hotel confirmations, the restaurant bills. She had never traveled with the company to those cities. I even called the front desk at the Hadley and asked, as innocently as I could, if they could confirm a lost receipt for a business guest from 2 weeks ago. Gave them her name. The woman on the phone said, "Of course. Let me pull that up." After a pause, she asked, "Would this be for the reservation under Ms. Miller or Mr. David S.?" David S. There it was. A name. A real one. Hidden behind Client D. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, "could you resend that to the email on file?" "Certainly," she replied. I created a burner email, gave it to her, and within minutes, the PDF landed in my inbox. A full itemized invoice for 2 nights. 1 suite, 2 guests, dinner for 2, room service, bottle of wine, all under Sarah's corporate expense ID. I saved it to the folder, labeling it plainly, confirmation, PDF. That night, she came upstairs late, as usual. I pretended to be asleep. She climbed into bed without a word, rolled to the far edge like she'd been doing for weeks. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Not angry, just hollow. The betrayal didn't feel cinematic. It wasn't like the movies where the guy screams into the night or punches a wall. It was quiet, numb, like mourning someone who's still alive and sleeping beside you. The next morning, I brewed coffee like normal. Made her a cup just the way she liked it, 1 sugar, half oat milk. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek. "You're sweet," she said. I smiled back, said nothing. She left for work wearing a dress I hadn't seen in months. Said she had a big day of presentations. I nodded, watched her drive away. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and opened the folder one more time. Scanned every document, every timestamp, every message. It was airtight. The only thing left to do was decide what came next. I wasn't ready for confrontation. I didn't want shouting matches or public meltdowns. No threats, no fights. What I wanted was something cleaner, something irreversible. And I knew exactly how to get it. Her company's ethics policy had a clause. I remembered it from years ago when she first got the job. It was something about disclosure of interpersonal relationships that could influence business decisions or misrepresent client interactions. Basically, if you were romantically involved with someone you were expensing meals or travel with, you were obligated to report it. She hadn't. I knew she hadn't because I checked the policy. Then I checked the HR forms. Then I checked with someone who would know for sure. That's when I remembered something else. My father, before he passed, had worked with the current chairman of her company. They weren't close friends, but he'd once helped the man secure a critical contract when he was just starting out. I remember Dad mentioning it over beers, saying, "That guy owes me more than he'll ever admit." Now, I wasn't planning on cashing in favors. That wasn't me. But I didn't have to. All I needed was a channel, a place to drop the file. And once that happened, the evidence would speak for itself. No drama, no threats, just data. I spent the next 2 days building a complete dossier. I laid it out like an analyst would, a report with sections. Timeline, expense inconsistencies, communications, evidence. I didn't add color, didn't call her names, didn't speculate. I let the paper trail do the talking. Once it was done, I printed 2 copies, one for legal, one for backup, and scanned everything into a secure folder. Then I sent a single, discreet message to the ethics inbox listed on the company's HR portal. Attached the file. Added 1 line. Submitted per corporate policy regarding undisclosed interpersonal relationships affecting expense reports. That was it. No accusations. No emotional pleas. Just a cold, clinical exposure of the truth. Within 24 hours, I received confirmation. A formal email stating the report had been received and would be escalated to the compliance department. There was no fanfare, no immediate fallout, but the dominoes had been tipped. And for the first time in months, I felt something unfamiliar. Control. By the time I submitted the report, something inside me had shifted. It's hard to explain, but once you stop trying to fix a lie, you start to see everything differently. The late-night phone calls didn't sting the way they used to. The perfume lingering on her coat no longer twisted in my chest. I wasn't waiting for her to come clean anymore. I wasn't hoping. I was preparing. She had her story, and I had mine now, except mine came with footnotes, documents, spreadsheets, names, timestamps, and policies she probably never imagined anyone would read. That weekend, I didn't act any different. I made breakfast like I always did, eggs, sourdough, sliced avocado. She scrolled on her phone the whole time, laughing to herself like she was texting someone funnier than me. Probably was. I asked how her week was going. She said she was exhausted. Told me there might be another quick trip coming up, something last minute to meet a client from out east. I nodded and asked if she needed me to drop her at the airport. She waved it off with a smile. "You're sweet, but no. It's not even locked in yet." Every word felt rehearsed, like I was watching someone play the part of my wife. But I played my role too. Quiet, supportive, oblivious. What she didn't know was that I'd already sent a direct package to the company's internal auditor, a secure envelope containing every file I'd compiled. I addressed it to a specific name, Jonathan Chalmers. Chalmers wasn't just some mid-tier HR rep. He was part of the company's legacy leadership, the kind of guy who didn't get involved unless something was worth noticing. More importantly, he owed my father a favor. A big one. Back in the early days when Chalmers was just starting out, my dad, then a senior director at an old manufacturing firm, had helped him land a major supply chain deal. I remember overhearing them talking once during a Christmas party. Chalmers said, "I owe your dad more than I can repay." I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for accountability, and a quiet route to it. Inside the package, I included a cover letter. This report outlines a series of corporate expense violations involving undisclosed personal relationships between an employee, Sarah Miller, regional account executive, and a client or partner, David S. Full last name redacted for privacy but available upon request. All evidence is sourced from publicly available records, expense documentation, shared cloud accounts, and travel receipts connected to the employee's corporate card. Submission made in good faith under the Ethics and Compliance Policy, Section 4. 2, Subsection C, concerning conflicts of interest. I signed it simply, a concerned party with documentation. That was all they needed. The following Monday, I got an automated acknowledgement email confirming the report was under internal review. I waited, didn't say a word. Sarah kept going about her routine like nothing was unraveling beneath her feet. She worked late 3 times that week, came home with shopping bags twice, client gifts, she claimed, and spent most evenings glued to her phone, texting someone she always called Lisa from procurement. I smiled when she said that. She didn't notice. By Wednesday, I received another email from the compliance team. This one wasn't automated. It was from Chalmers himself. We appreciate your submission. The contents of the report have been reviewed and verified. Steps are being taken to initiate a formal investigation into the alleged misconduct. The material will remain confidential, and we request no further dissemination of the information during the process. Should we require a formal interview, you will be contacted directly. That was all I needed to know. The trap had been set, and she had no idea. But it wasn't enough to expose her behind closed doors. I wanted the truth to land where she had worked so hard to build her image. Sarah wasn't just another employee. She'd curated a reputation at that company. Polished, untouchable, client whisperer. They called her. She loved the attention, the glass office, the quarterly awards, the business class flights. She played the part of a rising star. But now the same ambition she'd used to prop herself up was going to pull her down. I knew a corporate celebration was coming up. It had been on the calendar for weeks. A launch event for their new product line in New York. She was ecstatic about it. Kept talking about the rooftop venue with skyline views. I wasn't invited. Spouses rarely were. But I was going. Quietly. I'd already reached out to an old college friend who worked at the hosting venue. He owed me one from years ago when I helped him land a job recommendation. I asked if he could get me in, not on the guest list, just in the room. He said yes, no problem. There's always an extra name badge, he laughed. Just dress the part. So I did. Black suit, no tie, confident, invisible. I arrived half an hour after the event started. My friend met me at the back entrance, handed me a badge with a generic title, Operations Consultant, and waved me in. The rooftop was buzzing. Glass walls, jazz band, waiters carrying cocktails and tiny hors d'oeuvres. Everyone in polished business wear, clinking glasses and laughing about things that didn't matter. I found her easily. Sarah was at the center of a circle, drink in hand, dazzling as ever in a silver dress I'd never seen before. She was laughing too loudly, basking in compliments, probably already tipsy from the wine. And beside her, David S. I'd seen his face in a few LinkedIn profiles, but this was the first time I saw them together. He was tall, sharp suit, perfectly gelled hair, with that smug casual lean guys like that always seem to have when they think no one's watching. Except someone was watching. I kept my distance for a while, drifting through the room, listening to snippets of conversation. Eventually, I found the company VP giving a toast by the bar. I waited, and when the time was right, I stepped up, glass in hand, calm. I wasn't looking to humiliate her. I was looking to unmask her. The VP raised his glass and toasted, the future of innovation and the people who make it possible. Cheers erupted. Laughter followed. Sarah clinked glasses with David. That's when I stepped forward. May I offer a quick toast as well? I asked, projecting just enough to be heard. The VP, caught off guard but smiling, nodded. Of course. I raised my glass, standing just a few feet from Sarah now. Her face turned pale the second she recognized me. To truth, I said, keeping my voice even. And to transparency. To the honest work done by most of the people in this room. And to the few whose client relationships include weekend getaways, falsified expenses, and boutique hotel rooms funded by this very company. A pause. A long one. Whispers. Heads turning. Sarah's glass slipped slightly in her hand. David set his down. I continued. May those who profit from deceit find the same exposure they once feared. And may we remember that no reputation, no matter how polished, can survive the weight of documented truth. I clinked my glass gently against the one nearest me, set it down on the bar and walked out. No yelling. No drama. Just silence following me like a shadow. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The trap had been sprung. I didn't stick around to see the aftermath. I walked out of that rooftop ballroom like a man leaving a fire he didn't need to watch burn. Down the elevator, across the marble lobby, past the valet, into the night. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't smiling or crying or shaking. I felt something stranger than satisfaction. Stillness, like I'd been holding my breath for months and had finally exhaled. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't care what came next. She would, and she did. I got the first message an hour later. Sarah. What the hell did you just do? I didn't reply. 10 minutes later. Sarah. You blindsided me in front of everyone. You've lost your mind. Still nothing. Then she tried calling. Twice. I let it ring out. No voicemail. No words she could scramble together would have made a difference. The next morning, she wasn't home. I didn't expect her to be. I made coffee like always, checked the news, went for a run. When I got back, her car was in the driveway. I heard her pacing upstairs, on the phone, voice sharp. No, that's not what happened, she was saying. They're making it sound like I was hiding something. This is absurd. It's not even against policy. David wasn't technically a client, he was a... She stopped, probably heard me moving downstairs. I didn't go up. She didn't come down. Around noon, she left again. No words exchanged. But the next message hit different. HR at company. Com. Ms. Miller, we have received allegations supported by documentation regarding potential breaches of the company's expense and ethics policy. As per standard protocol, you have been placed under formal internal review. A meeting will be scheduled within the next 48 hours. Please prepare to provide relevant communications and travel documentation as part of the compliance audit. I don't know if she saw it coming. I do know she didn't see how fast it would unfold. The audit wasn't a quiet affair. Sarah had made too many enemies climbing her ladder, collecting office awards and outshining department heads at their own meetings. Some people smiled in her face, but most watched her success with silent resentment. Now, they watched her fall. *TS circulated. Receipts forwarded. Someone shared a group chat photo of her and David at a rooftop dinner in Boston. Another revealed she'd expensed a bottle of Chateau Margaux, labeled under client engagement. Pre-sales strategy. Her story didn't hold. It never could. On Monday, David was escorted out of the building. Security. No warning. They said he left his laptop and ID badge on the table. Didn't speak to anyone. 2 hours later, her name was removed from the company directory. Her email auto-response changed to, "This account is no longer active." It didn't stop there. The internal team released a statement to department heads, confirming the compliance investigation had uncovered irregularities in expense submissions linked to an undeclared relationship resulting in a violation of disclosure policies. Her name wasn't mentioned in the memo. It didn't need to be. Everyone knew. And if they didn't, they found out soon enough. Someone leaked it to a corporate gossip blog. An anonymous tip titled "Golden Girl Brought Down by Gold Card." It included redacted *TS, travel logs, expense summaries. The piece ended with a single brutal line. Turns out the queen of client charm couldn't expense her way out of accountability. She became a whisper, a headline, a cautionary tale told in coffee rooms and Slack threads. She called me 2 days later. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Her voice was quiet, shaky, not angry anymore, just hollow. "I don't even know where to begin," she said. I said nothing. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. "You've destroyed everything," she whispered. I almost laughed. "No," I said calmly. "You did that. I just stopped cleaning up after you." Her breath caught, like she'd been slapped. "I didn't think it would go this far," she said. "I didn't think." "That's the problem, Sarah," I interrupted. "You didn't think. You calculated. You covered. You manipulated. But you never actually thought about what it meant. About the people you hurt. About me." A long pause. Then she asked, "Why didn't you just talk to me? Why didn't you ask for the truth?" I sighed. Not out of frustration but fatigue. Because I did, I said. Over and over. And every time you fed me something new, some half-answer, some spin. And when that stopped working, you made me feel like I was crazy for even asking. You made me doubt my gut, my instincts, my own memory of us. I was scared, she said. No, I replied. You were selfish. Another silence. Then, quietly, what happens now? That's up to you, I said. But I've made my decision. She didn't argue, didn't beg. She just whispered, okay, and hung up. That was the last time we spoke directly. The next time I saw her, it was on a department-wide Zoom call. The company had brought me in as a consultant. Not because I asked, not even because I needed it, but because the chairman, the same one who owed my dad, had read my report, said he respected how I'd handled it, told me, we need people who still care about the truth. I accepted the offer. The Zoom meeting was for onboarding, standard introductions. Most of the faces were polite, neutral, but a few recognized my name. A few really recognized it. And one of them was Sarah. She joined late. Her camera flickered on. She froze the second she saw me. Her expression crumpled. She reached for the mouse, probably to leave the call. But the host said, actually, before we begin, we need to remove someone from the session due to HR restrictions. Sarah Miller, please disconnect. And just like that, she vanished. No goodbye. No chance to reclaim the narrative. Gone. Later that night, someone from the team sent me a private message. All of us knew something was off, he wrote. No one wanted to say it, but we're glad you did. You weren't the only one she was lying to. That hit harder than I expected, because I'd spent so long thinking I was alone in the unraveling. Turns out I wasn't. People had noticed. They'd just been waiting for someone else to call it what it was. Now, there was no hiding, no fixing. Sarah wasn't just out of a job. She was out of the circles she had once ruled. Her professional network dried up within a week. Recruiters stopped calling. Endorsements disappeared. Posts she'd made months ago, ones filled with hashtags like #BossEnergy and #ClientFirst, started collecting mocking comments before she finally deleted the account altogether. And I slept. Really slept, for the first time in months. No knots in my stomach. No lying awake wondering if I was losing my mind. I wasn't. I had just been living next to someone who thought she'd never be caught.